Hi people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new reading vlog. I meant to post one of these videos like once a month, but I think I skipped that in June because I was so busy with traveling and everything else. So anyway, today's video is another part of my reading vlog series that I decided to start randomly this year, where I read for the first time like popular YA books from a decade ago to see whether or not they really aged well. And like the criteria is that basically I don't want to be rereading anything. And second of all, I don't know. I think that's it. Because, okay, I was born in like 2001 or 2002 or something like that. So the YA books that were published in the next decade after that weren't YA books that I was reading during that time because I was reading middle grade. So basically, there isn't exactly specifically a time bracket as to when these books were published, but I'm thinking like from 2005 to like 2015, something like that. So basically, today's pick is Delirium, which I think is a YA dystopian trilogy, or the start of a trilogy, where the government decided that, like, love is a disease, so naturally the main character falls in love. I don't know. I'm a little confused. Like, why? I don't know. All of these YA dystopians that were written or published around the same time that like Hunger Games and Divergent and stuff were popular seemed like they were trying to ride the coattails of the Hunger Games popularity, but they never came to be as popular as the Hunger Games. Because the thing about dystopia and what makes it so timeless is like if it truly challenges and parallels something that the world is actually going through today in real time, so the readers can look up from their books and realize that like the author is trying to critique something that is happening in real time. And Lauren Oliver is not doing that, and I think that instead she's just writing like a fun romance that happens to have like a dystopian setting. Was this the start of romantasy? Like, romantasy focuses on a romance-driven story in a fantasy setting, but all of these early YA dystopian books are kind of the same thing, except instead of fantasy, it's dystopian. Or it's supposed to be dystopian, but it isn't really, because it's not very good. Anyway, I digress. Basically, I have very low expectations entering this book. I've already read Before I Fall by Lauren, which was one of my favorite books that I read in high school. So I know that she can write better, but I'm not really sure if her forte is dystopia or not. Anyway, let's get started. Hi. So I've just finished the first chapter, and I've discovered something. If love is a disease, why do they still have to get married? Like, what's the point of being paired with somebody after the procedure if you don't love each other? Like, is the point of marriage just for reproduction or something? Also, what is the main character's name? I've learned about this world building, which is fairly developed, I'll have to say. The propaganda is already crazy, but like, what is the point of being paired with somebody if you guys don't love each other? Also, the fact that her option would be getting married to a boy. That's heteronormativity, guys. Yeah, I hate that. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now. Ah, yes. Queerness, also known as unnaturalism. I'm not surprised that, like, there's homophobia in this book, obviously, but I am surprised that queerness is mentioned at all. So, that's a plus, I guess. I don't know. I'm excited for this rebellion to start happening. I'll admit, though, I'm enjoying this book much more than I thought I would, because the world building is actually explained. Now, I know it's bullshit, but but it's actually explained. And, like, Lena as a character also makes sense. It makes perfect sense as to why she's, like, conforming with the government, considering, like, her past with her mother committing suicide and, like, everything like that. Suicide in a more, like, normal world is hard to navigate, but in this world, it seems even more hard, especially with her relationship with her cousin Gracie and everything. Like, her aunt seems so annoying, which is the point. And, like, her relationship with Hannah kind of reminds me of the best friend relationship in the Uglies series. I completely forgot the best friend's name, but Tally was the main character, and then her best friend, I don't remember her name, but basically in that series, her best friend inspired her to, like, leave the pack or whatever. So, anyway, I'm actually enjoying this book more than I thought I would. I've read like 10 chapters of this book so far, and honestly, I'm enjoying it a lot. When I was younger, I never really enjoyed the forbidden love trope, but I'm really enjoying this book because it's well developed, and I honestly think that any trope that I dislike is because of books that I read when I was younger, where they just weren't well written. You know what I mean? Like, the trope itself inherently isn't the thing that I dislike. The thing I dislike is how it was developed, or written, or whatever. So anyway, the reveal that Alex is secretly, like, an invalid, or whatever it's called, is not necessarily a huge twist, but Lena's emotions and her reaction makes perfect sense. Of course she's angry. Of course she's upset that the boy that she's falling for is, like, an enemy or whatever. Because, like, the ways in which the government has taught her all these different horrible things about this separate other group of people, like, I would be upset too. It's completely understandable. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, this book is so much more, like, well-written than I was really expecting. And I shouldn't have generalized all of the books published during this time like that. And for that, I apologize. I don't know why, and maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm just drawing conclusions based off of limited evidence. But, like, Alex's, like, tribe of people reminds me of, like, indigenous people almost. And how, I don't know, the ways in which the media tends to, like, villainize them. But, like, they make white people be the heroes, which is not necessarily true. And, like, I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe I'm not cooking. Am I cooking, or is the stove off? I don't know. Anyway, basically, I'm really enjoying this book. I enjoy, like, Lena and Alex's romance, Lena and Hannah's friendship. Like, I hope they all get out the other side safely. I want to see more about, like, Lena's cousin Gracie specifically, because she's nonverbal, and the ways in which, like, disabled people are treated in a dystopia world has always been really intriguing to me as a disabled person myself, and the ways in which, like, we are treated in our world is definitely, like, the same in dystopia fantastical places, if that makes any sense. I don't know, I feel like disabled people are often overlooked and dismissed on Earth, so in fictional places, especially if they're not the main character, they're often dismissed and overlooked as well. So, anyway, there's that. Even in a world where, like, she pretends that, like, racism doesn't exist anymore or anything like that, ableism oftentimes is almost always still there. So, anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Basically, I think I might rate this book higher than 3 stars, but I'm not quite sure. I'm halfway through this book right now, so there's that. Her mother's alive? What? That would be absolutely bizarre. Anyway, In other news, I think this book might be a queer allegory. Maybe not intentionally, but I'm an English major, so I see allegories in everything, particularly queer allegories or any type of allegory that parallels with some kind of marginalized population. Like, hear me out, Lena's marriage to Brian could be a lavender marriage. And then if I squint, I can pretend that Lena and Alex are lesbians. Or at least that Lena is bisexual because she's attracted to Hannah and that's why she loves her so much. Yep, I've got it. Also, it's very interesting that, like, it's implied that, like, romantic love is definitely a disease. Well, that's not implied. That's explicit. But then, like, it's implied that, like, platonic love is also a disease. Because apparently after the procedure, like, they all grow apart from their friends. What? That is nuts. Anyway, yeah, that's where I'm at. So I finished the first book, and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars, because frankly, I really enjoyed it, and I had really low expectations. So, yeah. First of all, I really liked how the last line of book 1 is the same exact last line that her mother said to her, because this meaning of love, the love that her mother had for her, is the same amount of love that she has for Alex. You know what I mean? Like, that was so beautiful and so well done and so poetic. I loved the scene where Alex was showing her poetry. Anyway, I'm now reading book 2 because, I don't know, I'm just really enjoying this series. I love that Lena is now being introduced to, like, I guess the rebel group. I don't know what exactly they call themselves because I don't want to call them what Lena wants to call them and what she's been taught about them, you know, from her previous, like, old life. But anyway, I love that this group of people have been given, like, freedom to choose their own names, and so many of them have chosen names from animals or from colors or something like that. And I think that's really interesting, like, the ways in which the two groups of people are different. Anyway, I'm really enjoying it so far. I would say, like, 30% through book 2, and I'm not enjoying it as much as book 1, and maybe it's because of the alternating, like, timelines, because it alternates between then and now, and I'm enjoying the then more than I'm enjoying the now, because it's easier to understand. From what I understand, I think the now, the alternate timeline is that she's become a spy for the Resistance, I guess, but I don't know why. And it's kind of confusing as to why she's with Raven and Tack anyway. But, like, I don't know. I'm more interested in, like, the first timeline than the second one, basically. But I'm intrigued. I think also the alternating timelines will stop and it'll just segue into one. If that makes any sense? Hopefully that happens soon. I'll be honest, I don't really care about Julian. I don't know if, like, Alex probably is dead, right? So Julian is probably going to be Lena's next love interest. I don't care. I really don't care because I don't want to be emotionally invested in another romance when what Lena and Alex had was so good. Like, what am I supposed to do with this character? I don't like him. Anyway, yeah. I'm now like 70% or so through the second book, and I think it's really interesting how she's been taught that children from the uncured are disabled, essentially. And it's implied that if you're disabled, it's not necessarily healthy, which is ableist, because, like, it's implying, I think, at least, that disabled people are not as valuable to society and therefore are weirder and other and whatever, which I don't like the implication here. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Anyway, that's where I'm at. So I finished book 2 and I rated it 3 stars because, like, the pacing, the alternate timelines didn't really work for me, and it meant that book 2 is much less focused than book 1, and I was kind of confused throughout the entirety of book 2 with the scavengers and everything. And also, Alex is alive? What? I thought he died. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be a YA dystopian trilogy published in 2011 without a love triangle. But anyway, aside from that, I would say my favorite part of book 2 was probably meeting Raven and Blue and all of those other characters. I think that was really wholesome, and I wish that had lasted a little bit longer. I don't know. Once the scavengers came into play, and once, like, the third act in book 2 started, I didn't really care for this book as much. So I wasn't really emotionally invested when it was revealed that Raven and Tack, like, used Lena. That was fucked up, though, I will say. Anyway, time to start book 3 and see how in the world this trilogy ends. I'm about 30% through book 3, and honestly, I'm quite intrigued by Hannah's perspective, because first of all, I never thought I would hear from her again. I know that there was a novella about Hannah in between book 1 and 2, I'm pretty sure, and there's also a novella about Alex, and I'm not quite sure if I want to read them. But anyway, basically, I'm really enjoying Hannah's perspective because it's showing what has happened to the town that Lena left, to the community that Lena left, and I'm hoping that Lena's cousins can make an appearance again, particularly Gracie, and what's her sister's name? And did Gracie have a sister? I forgot. Anyway, I'm really intrigued to see what I will learn through Hannah's perspective. As for Lena's perspective, it's, like, way less interesting, honestly. This love triangle, I don't really care for. And for the politics, I also don't really care about what will happen, what Raven is planning and everything. Like, I don't care. I'm way more intrigued as to what Hannah's new husband is planning, because he's evil, and I don't like him. So, yeah. Honestly, I'm not even mad when it was revealed that Hannah is the one who turned on Lena and Alex. I'm not even angry because I feel bad for Hannah. I understand that, she was jealous of her best friend's new boyfriend because they're spending so much time together. She misses her best friend. You know what I mean? So obviously, since she's so privileged and brainwashed and whatever, that she didn't really think about the consequences of what's going to happen when they were caught. You know what I mean? And I feel like she definitely regrets it. You know what I mean? It's not like when Snow betrayed his best friend in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It's nothing like that at all, because Hannah is actually a human being, and she feels emotion and regret and remorse and love, and she's actually you know what I mean? I don't know why I just compared her to the villain in the Hunger Games, but I'm trying to say, I don't think that Hannah is a villain. I think that she's more complex than that, and I think that sometimes when one is privileged, they don't think about how, their actions impact other people because they don't have to, because they've been taught not to. But now that, Lena is gone or whatever, Hannah is forced to think about what happened, which is why I'm so glad that she's using her voice and her actions silently, to help Grace and her family and everything. Does that make sense? So, yeah. I finished book 3, and first of all, the ending itself was very abrupt. Why did it end like that? I don't understand. Second of all, I think this book needed more development and explanation because I was so confused. Second of all, even though I preferred Hannah's perspective over Lena's perspective. I also thought that Hannah's perspective came out of nowhere, kind of. Again, I didn't read the novellas, so maybe it didn't for fans who read the novellas. But for me, retrospectively, like, why was that there? I appreciated it. But, like, Lena has always been the narrator this whole time. So, I don't know. The things that we learned about in Hannah's perspective was interesting, but I wish that we learned about all those things from Lena's perspective. Does that make any sense? Anyway, this trilogy is not super well written in general, and I'm glad that Lena got to reunite with Grace. I guess Jenny and Kayla and Rachel are all dead. That's not really explained, but I'm assuming that they're all dead. And yeah, what happened to Fred? Is he dead too? I hope so. I wish that there was some kind of epilogue or something that shows, like, what happened to Hannah afterwards, what happened to the world afterwards. Like, did they get rid of, the disease and the procedures and everything? Like, what happened afterward? Anyway, I don't know what I would like to happen afterwards. Maybe, like, change the entire education system, the history, everything. I don't know. Anyways, I rated this book 3 stars. I rated book 2 3 stars. I rated the first book in this series 4 stars because I genuinely, like, really enjoyed it and it felt really interesting, and the series had great potential, but I don't know what happened after that. It just went downhill immediately. So, yeah. There's that. So in conclusion, if you're interested in whether or not I ship Lena with Alex or Julian by the end of the series, I don't really care because I don't really like where Alex's character went from a writing perspective after book 1. You know what I mean? I didn't really care for, like, what happened to him, basically, afterwards. As for Julian and Lena's romance, retrospectively, I think it's cute. I think it's a bit of, like, forced proximity. And I knew that they wouldn't be endgame, so I didn't really spend time shipping them. And as for, like, Lena's relationship with the other characters, I wish that she had found another friend, because she and Raven never really became friends, understandably, because she ended up not trusting Raven anymore. And as for her relationship with her mother, I don't know, I just wish that there was, like, more details, more descriptive, like, details in book 2 and 3. There was a lot of that in book 1, but, like, I don't know what happened. Anyway, in conclusion, those are my thoughts on this trilogy. I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to do another video like this because I'm going on vacation again at the end of July, so I don't think I'm going to film another video like this before that, because, like, when I'm going on vacation again, I'll be filming that too, so I don't want to upload too many reading vlogs, you know, in between. But anyway, in conclusion, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the fox emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.